Good. All right. Well, it's top of the hour. Let's start on time. As always, let's start with a few wins. I'll go with you, and then we'll pick on someone from the audience.
Yeah. So we have an investor we work with down here that we have 3 counter offers back out on for investment properties, which has been really good. Picked up a couple new buyers this week. We've got some new techniques we're kind of doing outside of open houses. So I will say that like it's kind of a learning curve for us down here. So some of the stuff we were doing in Cincinnati, we had to switch up a little bit. So we're getting super creative with like our follow-ups, how we're handling things. And it's kind of like pushing us outside of our normal like box or our range, but it's been awesome. It's been cool. We're kind of learning some new techniques, stepping out of our comfort zone. So hopefully keep it going. And then in Cincinnati, the team they're absolutely crushing it. Couldn't be like more proud of those guys. So
yeah, I mean, I think what will be good for you to share too, though, is you obviously have a team in Cincinnati, and you're breaking into Tampa, and it's you and your wife really kind of on the forefront of that. And what you shared with me about your passion for Tampa Bay Buccaneers and where that led to, why don't you just quickly share that? Because I think that's kind of cool that you're making a bold move for your business, and I truly believe that's going to pay off crazy, because especially that it's aligned with something that you're passionate about outside of real estate, but yet it's tied to real estate. So
yeah. So I grew up down here, a huge Bucks fan. I've listened to this podcast. It's called Pewter Report. It's a local. They cover the Bucks, and besides the ESPN and NFL Network, they're probably hands down the biggest media coverage of the Bucks. Their website gets like 6 or 7 million views a year. Their podcasts get a couple 100,000 listens. I've listened to them forever, and I just always thought when I was in Cincinnati, I was like, if I moved to Tampa, I wonder if I could like be one of their sponsors, because they have like 3 or 4 sponsors. So actually, the first week of us being back down here, I emailed Scott, who's the owner of the company. I said, "This is going to sound really dumb and weird. What do I need to do to like sponsor you guys? Like, what can I do?" So we sat down, we had a conversation. It is 100%. It's been amazing so far. I will say it is the largest ad spend I've spent on anything. It's nothing like absurdly crazy, but we just don't spend a ton of money on marketing, and it's been awesome. I got to take Daniel to training camp, which was super cool. We got to Mike Allstott's my favorite Bucks player in history. He's actually the reason that I love football. And I was talking to Scott about it, and he's like, "That's awesome. I know Mike Allstott." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool." So the other day I get a video at 8 a.m. with Mike Allstott saying like, "Hey, Eric, hope you're doing well. Glad to hear you're a Bucks fan. Go Bucks." And I'm just like, I mean, it's a 5-second video, but above the moon on it. But I was on the podcast yesterday. While we're doing the podcast, I actually had a couple of people comment, and they were like, "Hey, I'm actually moving to the Tampa Bay region. I'm going to go ahead and save your information." So I plan on going back into the Facebook Live of that, adding them as friends and reaching out and seeing what we can do. But it's been awesome. I know it's just kind of the beginning. We're scratching the surface, but it aligns with something that I love and put a ton of time and effort into. So super excited.
yeah, and the podcast is their podcast, and you literally just talked football, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe he threw in there that you're also a sponsor, or was that even not mentioned?
No, it was. So it was just like, what do we do? Like everything. And it's cool because like, to me, I never want to do something where it's like, I see the people that market and pay for marketing, and it does get annoying. So, I said on the podcast, I'm like, look, I'm not here to like, we're not here to be in front of you guys all the time or get in the way of the football portion of this. I love football. That's why I did it. This is a community I've been a part of for 6 years, 7 years before this. And I just want to do it just strictly because, to me, like if I get to work with some buyers and sellers, and instead of maybe real estate's super stressful, you're trying to find stuff in common. So I think it's really cool that like I'll have buyers and sellers that, not every conversation will be like, "What's going on here? What's going on here?" And I can just be like, "Hey, did you see that game last week?" Or "What do you think about this?" So it's definitely unique and definitely exciting.
Yeah, it's a big move. I think it's awesome. It's several thousand a month, but not everybody can do that yet. That's here with us, or that's going to be listening to this. But it's something to think about. And the cool thing is that that's actually the opposite of what we're going to talk about, because what we're going to talk about is it's not going to cost you really anything besides your time, right? Simple social media strategies that we'll get into in a second. Before that, just a couple housekeeping items. I put in the chat our Facebook group for our community. That's where I post the recordings of this and where we stay connected. So if you are not part of that group, feel free to join and then share where you're from, what you're looking to get out of the group. If you're an investor, an agent, or both, right? That's who our audience is. And then our YouTube channel, I put that in there as well. So if you do miss a training, that's where I load those up, and then I actually paste that in the Facebook group so it's easier to find. So a couple of that housekeeping items, and maybe I'll go to Alex for a win. Alex, how about you share a win for us? We'll do a couple wins and we'll get into the training today.
I've got one offer on my listing that we went live a week ago Monday, and hoping to get another offer. They're due today at 5 p.m. So I'm really excited for my client. They
Awesome.
went out on a limb to, well, not out on a limb, but they took all of our advice and guidance as far as, making repairs and preparing the home for sale. And so I'm really happy that it sold, or potentially going to sell quickly.
Yeah, just the way you envision and pitch to your client, the
Correct,
vision behind what you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool that you're doing that. I like to do virtual 2 claps. So 2 clap for Alec. And I'm gonna go to Ron since he's got his camera on. So Ron, share a win. It could be business or personal if you're able to unmute yourself. Ron Rank, is it? Oh, looks like Ron.
To investment, right?
Oh, hi Ron. We can hear you now.
Okay, you're talking about investments, right?
Oh, anything, whatever's
anything.
good in your life. Could be
Oh.
personal or business. We're just sharing a couple wins to start.
Okay, well, I've got a tentative meeting next week with a independent broker who's got about 30 some agents, and going to be talking about attraction with them.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So I'm guessing you're part of EXP or another company that has that opportunity.
No, I'm with the XP.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. All right, 2 clap. And anyone else want to share a quick win? And before we get going, Joe turned on his camera, so he's eager. All right, let's go, Joe. Come on, share a win. You got to just unmute yourself real quick, Joe. Oh, he must be talking to somebody. All right,
Just like,
Sorry about
there
that.
you
No, I've got you guys up here on my television over here so that my assistant can see what's going on in the other room, you know what I mean? And so I'm trying to work the mouse on this computer, so I'm looking up over here trying to get it in the right spot so I can unmute myself, so I apologize for that. Let's see, a win for me. I just signed a pretty good deal on a vacant land transaction, my biggest one ever, so I'm dual representation, so it works out pretty good. It's a 15, just under 15 acres for 653,000. So it's a pretty good deal.
nice, dude.
That's my win. Yeah, that's my win. Hey, I'm excited about it.
That's cool. 2 clap. Talking about land, I keep having wins with my land business that I have with my partners. We sold 2 since our last training. Yeah, we've sold 2 wholesales in land and have another one to close again next week. So the land business, man, Joe, I'm liking it. I'm liking the land business. It's a lot easier than flipping homes. I can tell you that much. Just flipping.
It's
There's
the
a
whole
guy
thing
that-
I told you from the beginning. Yeah, there's no inspections, no appraisals, all cash, 21 days. You know what I mean? What could go wrong, right?
Yeah, it's
the perfect
fun.
hedge against the housing market too, you know, because when people aren't buying houses, they're putting money into land, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Eric?
there's a guy that I met at Cameron's event a couple weeks ago, and he buys stuff down here in Central Florida, and he does about 400 transactions a year just flipping land, and he does it all in his Roth IRA and then a bunch of Roth IRAs down here, and he is the coolest character I've ever met. He works, he has 2 waterproof computers. He works in his pool all day long. That's all he does. He has a VA that does a bunch of the stuff. And he's like, when one computer dies, I go plug it in, I grab the other one, I go back in my pool, and I work the rest of the day. He does 400 transactions a year. I was like, my man.
Yeah, man, it's a cool business model, but anyway, that's not the topic
Yeah.
today. Maybe one day we'll do a little bit of a training on land flipping from all the things I'm learning. But today I want to give the floor mainly, I would say, to Eric, because it's kind of cool, because it's really what, you know, what took Eric to a whole nother level in terms of from the beginning to where he is today. He gives most of the credit to the social media strategy. So I'm as interested in hearing about it as you might be. I might have some pointers here and there, but or questions, but really it's going to be a story of how Eric got started. So Eric, how about you kind of take the floor and lead the way, buddy?
Absolutely. So when I got licensed, I was 21 years old and had no experience in real estate. I mean, I volunteered for Habitat for Humanity, but didn't have any great connections, didn't have anybody in the business, wasn't the super knowledgeable kid per se. So it was really hard to convince my peers and my peers' parents and anybody that I knew to buy or sell a house with me. It was really difficult. The first couple of years, I really struggled. So
not to mention
my first
that
year,
you were 15 years old, probably when you got started.
Yeah. I mean, I was 21, but my face looked 15. So that was a tough one. So, and my first year I did 4 transactions and I was working at another full-time job while I did it. My second year I did, I think 10 or 11 transactions. So next to nothing. Not terrible, but it was really tough. And a couple of those one of them was like a personal. And then my third year was actually the year of COVID. So I smartly quit my job in February of 2020, 2 weeks before like the COVID shutdown. I quit my full-time job and went full-time into real estate. And it was really tough. Like I was like, okay. In my head, I was like, I have to make like 30 or 40 grand a year to kind of keep balance with what I've done at other jobs. So if I do that, like just quick math, I have to close 10 to 15 deals a year. And I didn't know how to do it. I was working at Coldwell at the time. I would talk to agents in the office. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? How are you guys getting this business? Oh, pick up the phone book. Just call. Like, who's got a phone book? Just go into businesses, drop off business cards, go do this. And none of that stuff was what I wanted to do. It was nothing. There's stepping out of your comfort zone in a positive way. And then there's stepping out of your comfort zone where you're not going to stick to it because it's not something that's there's just too much resistance. So actually the guy that I flipped a ton of properties with over the past couple of years, he posted on, I think I've talked about this a little bit on here. He posted on social media and he was like, I'm looking for an assistant to help just handle paperwork. So I reached out to him. I'd known him for a couple of years at some flipping things. And I said, dude, I'd love to help you. And he said, no offense, you would suck at that job. He's like, I know you and you would suck at doing my paperwork. He's like, I just know that like, that's not up your alley. But he said, I am looking for a marketing person that I'm probably going to bring on the next month or two. So I'll keep you updated. I said, okay, I would love to do it. Whatever I need to do to get my foot in the door, just let me know. So he called me back about a month later and he goes, look, I don't have a lot of money to pay you. I have no money to pay you to start out. And then once we kind of get rolling, I'll probably give you like $300 a month. That'll be your salary. So I was making a cool $3,600 a year. He said, what I want you to do is you're going to go to the properties. You're going to take photos. So I was just doing update photos. So I could be like, hey, this is the work that was done compared to last week. And he said, and I was like, well, I can do that. I can make some marketing for you. Would you care if I did Facebook walkthrough videos? And he goes, don't care. Go ahead, do it, whatever you want to do. So I started out, he had about 12 properties and they were all like super far from each other, like 40, 50 miles. So it sucked. I was driving. I was like kind of ticked off. I'm like, I'm losing money to drive to these properties. I'm wasting a ton of gas. I'm taking a bunch of my time away from prospecting, but I was like, I need to make it worth it. So every house, I would just open up Facebook, I'd go to Facebook Live, and I'd put this ugly face on the screen for like 10 seconds. And I would say, hey, it's Eric Gross with Coldwell Banker. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and show you a property that we're working on. He was okay with that verbiage that we're working on. It's at 123 Main Street. This is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot home. We're doing new floors, roof, windows, and I'd walk through the entire scope of it. And slowly people surprisingly started to reach out to me on social media. And they're like, hey, like, that's so cool you're into flipping properties. I'm not the one flipping properties. I'm just videoing this guy's houses. And they're like, that's so crazy. It looks like you're busy all the time. You're crushing it. Hey, what's that house off of 123 Main Street? My mom is looking at buying a house. Or what's that house off of 123 Main Street? I have a coworker that's been looking for a couple of months. I think they'd be interested. So I kept doing it, and it built up a ton of credibility for me. That was my like main leverage of social media, was that it built up credibility, and it showed like, hey, at that point I was 22 or 23. It built up that like, hey, he's in the business. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. He's actually working on investment properties. He understands scope of work. He understands, like, he's describing neighborhood qualities, and slowly but surely it kept building up credibility. And then it kind of got to the point where it just exploded. And I had a bunch of people that I was no longer posting on social media as often, but I had a bunch of people that were reaching out to me and they're saying, hey, I'm looking to buy or sell a house. I had a bunch of investors reach out to me, and they're like, we see you posting about these flips all the time. Would you be willing to help us look for flips as well? We'll either pay you a finder's fee, you'll be able to list it, or we'll give you like an acquisition fee and you'll be able to list it. So that was kind of the main position of it.
Let me ask you this. So after you did, the first or one or second, and you're like, okay, I can do this. This is not that difficult. Was there a specific strategy that you started implementing where you would go back to the same property 3 times during the flip phase, or like what would it be like? Kind of what was your process, if you can share a little bit?
Yeah, I totally wish I could tell you that I had like some really like thought out plan of like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to organize it. But to be honest, I was just kind of at a point in my business where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to figure something out. So I was just like, I need to put my face on Facebook. That was one thing I knew. I had also, before this, I had done, and I did this because my business coach at Coldwell was like, hey, let's kind of force your hand. Let's get you uncomfortable. I want you to do videos. I want you to do a weekly video. You can be anything you want, but you're new to the business. So I want you to do something that has to do with the process. And he did it strategically because it built up my confidence. So like, if anybody knows, when you're a new agent, to pass the real estate exam, they're just getting it so that you can pass the exam. They teach you nothing on how to become an agent. So when I was newly licensed, I had no clue how to do anything. I was like, what's a title company? Like, what's title insurance? What does a loan officer do? Like, they don't teach me this. And I was clueless. I'd never bought a house. I'd never done any of this. So he was like, I want you to go out, have a buddy record you, and I want like 2-minute educational videos on what's title insurance. Why is title insurance important? What's a loan officer? What's the different loan programs? All this stuff. And he gave me a ton of ideas, and I did it, and it built up my confidence a ton. So the flipping was the same way. I had no true agenda at the beginning. I was just like, this is a house, it's getting work. I got into the business to work on investments, so I might as well put myself out there and see what happens. And it, over time, built credibility. I was just putting something out there. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to be front facing in front of everybody I knew on Facebook and Instagram and everything like that.
And then think about yourself, like listening, like I know when I'm on social media and I see someone walking through a property, an agent or an investor, you're assuming technically that that's their listing or that's their flip. Like that's the perception that we will mostly have. Little that we know that a lot of times agents, when they do that consistently, they're doing it not even under listings, right? And in your case, this was even better because this was a rehab that you were doing it on, which I believe it attracts more eyeballs, right? There's a reason why there is a ton of flipping shows on TV. People love watching that stuff, right? So I do believe there is a bigger opportunity for attention coming to you, where you can almost, and we briefly talked about this, if you were to apply maybe a strategy now, the way I would think about it is like, you go there before they start the rehab, kind of tying what we were talking about 2 months ago, right? about the rehab
Yeah.
subgroup, doing the subgroup, you
Yeah.
know, before, during, and after, like applying the same exact thing, but to the social media videos and saying, hey, today we're going to walk through 123 Main Street. One of my investor partners just acquired it. Like, doesn't mean you're listing it, you're not saying it, right? You're not lying, right? Just use a verbiage that just implies that it's some partner, friend, whatever, whoever that could be, that's giving you access. And you literally just walk through the property the before and be like, hey, in a few weeks, we're going to come back to this property and we're going to see the progress of the vision that this investor has. Boom. And then when it's finished, like guaranteed people are going to tune in because it's almost like a cliffhanger, right? And
Yep.
imagine you have a bunch of those cliffhangers constantly showing up on your social media, right? Because
And towards the end, that's what we did. So towards the end, not towards the end, but after probably about a year of just doing it kind of anyway, randomness, we did start a new way of doing it where like we had an entire laid out plan with the flipper. We buy it, we do just purchased, we buy houses cash. And then I would do a video with that property with bed bugs in it and, you know, trash all the way up to the windows. And I'm walking over all this stuff. And then, you know, once it hit another milestone, like clean out. And then once it was down to the studs. And we kept doing that. And also, like, the investor that I worked with loved me doing it because I had agents. I mean, this was the best part. I had agents all the time that reached out to me and they were like, that property is disgusting. One, I have a buyer for it when it's done. Two, I've got 2 listings that if I put them on the market, they'll never sell. Will you come over and just throw us a cash number so I can sometimes just to show the seller what's going to happen when they hit the market, and sometimes just like there's no way they're going to get what they want, so like offer and maybe they take the cash deal. And it was great. It was kind of like this compounding. I can think off the top of my head, we had like 3 killer deals where it was an agent that was like, hey, I saw that video. I've got a listing that's very similar. Would you please just come give us a cash offer? We went and gave a cash offer. Cash offer got accepted, and we've got another flip. Then we got more videos and everything else like that. So it just kept compounding on itself.
and then what did the investor that hired you for whatever, $300 for this position a month, didn't he end up actually asking you later to help with listing the flips? Was that?
Yeah. So starting out, I didn't get the listing. So it is a little bit depressing when you're walking all these properties and you're like, this is a $500,000 flip and I won't get to list it. So afterwards, actually, like after probably a couple of months, I asked him, I'm like, what do I need to do to list some of these? Like, what do I need to do? I don't want to step on any toes. Like, what can I do in your business so that I can start to list these? And he said, just being upfront and honest with you, like, if you find a deal, you list it. He's like, I've always done that. I'll always continue to do that. And I was like, okay, that's fair enough. Makes sense. So now in my downtime, because obviously I wasn't as busy at this time, I started and I do it down here as well. I set myself up on an MLS search with MLS terms that lead me to stuff that needs rehab. So like down here, we've got like TLC, as is, estate, probate, updates, handyman special, cash, short sale, pre-foreclosure. Like we've got like a couple hundred terms that we just plug into the MLS and it sends listings to my email, and I get up every morning and that's like one of the first things I do is I check what hit my email. So I started like doing that in Cincinnati, and I'm like, hey, here's like 10 properties on the market. I've run comps on them. Here's the comps. I've run 70% of what the comps are. So where we need to be all in, it's less, or it's, you know, we have some wiggle room compared to the price, and then we'll just take the repairs and minus that. So we went ahead and did that, and that's how we got a lot of offers accepted, and that's how we did 40 flips. I'd say half of them were on market.
Got it. So you started acquiring or helping with acquisition for this investor, essentially.
Yeah. He started having me run the acquisition disposition. It got to the point where he was like, do you want to stay on the marketing? And I was like, I love you, buddy. The $300 is like, just keep it. Like it's not a big deal. I like what we have set up. I'll continue to market it. I'll continue to still go out there because that helps my business. But we'll figure something out. We ended up hiring somebody. And then like a success story. So I had a property that we we got off market. Actually, it was a short sale when we purchased it, and I did a video. And one of my best friends, one of my wife's best friends from high school, reached out to me. She goes, "Where's that located?" I'm like, "West side of Hamilton." And she's like, "We are kind of thinking about moving." So, and we saw that, and that house literally fits exactly what we want. Do you think that, like, what's going to be the AR? What are you guys going to list it at? So I was like, well, the plan was to list it at like 250, but maybe I'll talk to him and see what we can do. So he agreed to sell it for 240 to them. So I listed their house for 170. And I actually brought the buyer for their house. So it was double ending the 170, and then I double ended the 235, 240. All because I did the video. And then my investor loved me because he didn't have to go crazy on this rehab. It was already sold. He knew it was sold. We closed on it the day the work finished. There was a couple of appraisal contingencies they came out and got him knocked out. So I think I think from purchase to sale was like 5 weeks for him on a $40,000 rehab, because we had the process going in the background. We had their house listed. We had a set to sell with my buyer, so I knew it was going through. And it was like, I mean, it's 4 transactions right there.
Yeah, and it's from videos. So if you're an investor here listening, right, and wanted to kind of get in front of agents and or sellers, like, this is something that you might want to consider. Like, it's very simple, right? And start doing videos of your properties, like in different phases, right? And it doesn't have to be anything professional, right? This wasn't where Eric had a videographer follow him around, recording him. This was you with just probably your phone holding it like this, I'm guessing, and just live stream and talk about the property, right? It could be that easy. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed and fearful that, oh, I'm gonna look weird, and this isn't professional, and like, what are other people gonna think? But the reality is that no one thinks anything. They're just looking at the actual property, and they're intrigued maybe by the actual property, especially if they're the ones in the market, right? So if you're an investor and you're showing like, hey, we just acquired this property on 123 Main Street, we're going to make this thing the most beautiful thing on the block. Imagine someone from that neighborhood is watching that video, and then they have, or they know someone, or their aunt is living there, and it's a property that they don't want to expose to the market by an agent because it's a hoarder home. Guess who they want to call is an investor, right? And if they see those videos, like, it could be literally as simple as that from your marketing strategy. Of course, I wouldn't only do that, but it doesn't need to be overwhelming. Like, we sometimes create a story in our head, or you don't need to spend money on ads, right? For this strategy, right? Anyway, I just think it's so simple, but yet you literally, that's what basically was the catalyst, right? To you being a success story now and staying in the business and really getting into the business of working with investors too. Because it's not like you got your license saying, oh, I'm going to work with investors, or were you? Like, was that like a thought?
I always wanted to work the investment side. I just didn't know how. So I was going to every investment meetup and everything like that. But again, I was 22 years old and I had 3 sold transactions. So me pitching an investor to be like, hey, work with me, was zero shot. Like, they were just like, okay, like, no. So this was kind of something where he was looking for somebody. Luckily, I was like cheap talent. So he was like, you'll just be the face of it. I want you to go out. And it built up. And he kind of took a shot on me, and it worked out really well. I would say for both of us, hopefully, where I was able to bring him a ton of deals. And, we just worked really well together. And it was after that we just decided, like, hey, let's keep growing this together. Let's see what we can do. And that's what we did. So.
And what do you tell your go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and I was going to say, like, their social media to me is like it's such an easy way to market yourself. It's such a large impact, especially if you have anybody that's on your social media typically cares for you in a way. Sometimes not, but them by passing an acquaintance or something. That was what was huge for me, was because I'm like outgoing in a way, but I'm like outgoing in situations where I can be outgoing. I'm not going to be like, if there's a room of 400 people, I'm not going to be the guy that's sitting there having conversations with everybody. I'm going to be in the guy in the corner that's got like the 5 people that he knows, and I'm just like talking to them. That's just always how I've been. So social media for me was great because it was people that I knew, and it was putting myself in front of people that cared about me and cared about my business and had no problem referring me off or wanted to see me grow.
Yeah. So what the lessons from that now, how is that impacting your decisions on growing, your new team that you're basically created before you moved to Tampa, right? And then how are you going to apply some of these, or maybe you are already in Tampa? Like, maybe give us kind of the both perspectives.
Yes. So the team in Cincinnati, I've tried to beat it in their head so many times. I'm like, social media. That's the first conversation I have with all my agents. I'm like, this is what it did for me. I tell this exact same story to everybody we bring on the team. I'm like, social media, like you don't know who's going to watch, who's going to see. And they're hesitant. So I make them now, like we do open house Facebook Lives. So every open house I've ever run, I do a Facebook Live. Doesn't matter if it's the best property or the worst property. And I walk through and explain what it is, where it's at, price, and everything like that with the address. I make them do that. So, and then the other thing is we make a lot of their marketing. So they're sold, just sold, pending, under contract, of that. So Manny, one of the first people we brought on the team, he was like so hesitant with the social media. He's like, dude, I hate social media. I don't want to post on it. I'm good. So he actually just called me about an hour ago, and he's like, I've got somebody out to get pre-approved. And I'm like, awesome. Did they come through Brevity, like our lead management? And he's like, no, they called me on social media. I have no clue who it is. Somebody shared my Facebook post. She thought, she went and clicked my social media. She sees all of the stuff that we're doing, and it's proof of concept. So she reached out to me off of one of our posts, and she's getting pre-approved. And I'm like, that's all you need. And it might not be direct, but maybe it's down the road. Like, it's to the point in my business where we post on social media so much that a lot of my leads are people that are just like, hey, I see you are like super busy. Like, are you still taking on clients right now? We need to list our house in a couple of weeks. So it's huge. Down here, kind of what you were saying, it's just openness. Like, I've been down here for a month and a half. I'm not like swimming in leads. I do open houses every weekend. I'm grinding. I'm right back to the Eric in Cincinnati that had just left his job during COVID. So we're constantly grinding. We're constantly doing open houses. So I do the open house Facebook updates and lives. I've had maybe 20 to 25 agents from Cincinnati reach out to me, and they're like, how the heck are you that busy down there right now? I'm not. I've got a couple of transactions under contract. I'm not as busy as I am in Cincinnati, but they think I'm like lighting the world on fire. Like, they're like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, yeah, just like, sticking to it, because now I'm that referral spot for them for Cincinnati. I have so many people in Cincinnati, and they're like, actually a lot of people move to and like in between Cincinnati and Tampa. I don't know why, but I'm that referral person. So when they need an agent in Cincinnati, they're like, Eric is like constantly posting that he's got listings, he's got this, he's got that. I'm going to send my client there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be anything crazy.
Yeah. That's cool. Maybe let's open it up if anyone has any questions, and then we can go to a breakout session, which we haven't done in a couple months, I think, because the training's
been a while.
Any questions for Eric? Sylvia said this is awesome. She's proud of you. Sylvia said she's proud of you.
Thank you, Sylvia. It's social media to me is like, I would almost go as far to say that like it's almost impossible to do business during 2023 without doing something social media related, unless you're just like really good at building relationships and can go to a coffee shop and have a conversation with somebody. It's anytime you're putting yourself out there, it sucks. It sucks to put yourself out there sometimes. I know there's times where I'm like, please don't make me put this face out there. And I do it, and it always turns out and works out. And Katie's looking at me through the sliding glass door right there.
All right. Everybody's just saying, Joe is saying perception is everything. That's right.
Yeah.
Good job. I'm taking notes for sure. Brianna. Awesome. Well, if you have a question that comes up before we finish, let us know. But in the meantime, what we'll do, since we do have more time today than normal after the training, is we'll go into breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are designed really to get to know each other better, because we do have people here from all over the country. We don't know, right, where everybody's from. This is a national community, so it's designed to just get to know each other better on more intimate setting, right, with maybe 5-6 people in the breakout room, and have about minute 30 to 2 minutes each to share where are you, what do you do, what's your business model, and maybe you can become a referral for each other, or maybe you have a property that you guys can do business on, whatever, right? So share whatever it is that you're doing, and what are you looking to do. Maybe there is someone in that group that can help you, right, in the next step, or recommend someone that you might be needing, if it's a commercial lender or anything, right? So that's what it's designed to do, that it's hard to do in a bigger setting of 20 people. So I'm going to break you guys into rooms now. Usually what happens, and I've done a lot of these masterminds, right now we have 18 people, but not everybody goes into the room because maybe they're busy or they're driving or they're just listening. So I'm going to just do 2 rooms, and you'll probably end up in a room with about 7 people. That would be my guess, based on my experience of doing these. So you'll see it pop up on your screen, accept it, and you'll be put into a breakout room, and we will see you in about 8 to 10 minutes or so, depending how many people are in your room. And then we'll finish the conversation about takeaways from maybe your conversations, or any other questions you might have for Eric as well. See you guys soon. All right. Okay, cool. Everyone's back. Was that enough time? I always want to ask. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, what's up, Derek? Good to see you, man. I didn't even know you were here.
Yo, what's up, man? I was hiding earlier. But yeah, I'm here.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So yeah, any final takeaways from maybe the breakout room or anything else that we shared about?
I definitely need to make a list of the investors I come across, and make sure that whenever I come across a deal, I call down that list. And right now, they're just they're somewhere scattered in multiple notebooks, but I really need to get it together.
Oh, got it. Organize your database of your contacts, investor contacts. Yeah. Cool. Good share. How about you, Derek?
I'm just kind of like, I'm laughing at myself because of like the full circle on this. The very first business that I ever started was a social media business that I started, and probably did it for like a year, and then I stopped doing it because I absolutely hated it. And I figured out that like, I hate social media, and I really don't want to be on social media ever or have anything to do with it. But now it's like literally to the point where you can't do anything without doing it on social media, you know what I mean? And so like, I'm like really having to bite my lip and get back into forcing myself to get out there and get on it, and do it. Like, I just started another business, launched a coffee business just a couple weeks ago actually too, and like having to force myself into engaging and posting and doing stuff on that is hard. But then like, obviously, like Eric was sharing, like the value that comes, I think, especially in a business like this with real estate, is massive because of the exposure, the networking, the like someone shared the perception that it creates of the fact that you're busy and doing stuff, right? There's so much that goes into it. So yeah, just forcing myself to get up there and get in it and start doing it, I know is going to be huge, and a very critical component.
Yeah, and I think the way you think about it, you could do business without social media, right? However, you just need to have a very large marketing budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're talking about is doing free social media posting, right? That doesn't
Yeah.
require any money, just time, but there's absolutely ways of doing this business. This is not the only way to do it, but you need to then have several grand a month that you have to then direct mail and focus on a different way of acquiring a client. right? So
Right.
you just kind of have to pick your battles. Like, okay, do I have the money? If I don't like social media or I don't want to spend time on it, well, what's the other options? Oh, it's this, this, and this. And I can guarantee you those are going to cost a lot more money than what we talked about.
Yeah.
Right?
And some people still kill it with in-person networking and just being an absolute machine at that, right? So if you've got the time and the personal skills and want to do that, then go for it. But yeah, you got to have at least an alternative solution, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm back. Sorry, my connection went. So, and two, one of the things I had to describe to my team because they were so against it was like my views on my Facebook Live videos aren't that crazy. It's, I don't know, like I average like 300 or 400 views a video, but, and at least to me, that doesn't seem like a lot because you see all these like YouTube videos with like millions of views. Take 300 or 400 people, put them in a room, stand in front of them and let them listen to you for like 3 minutes and tell me it's not like a crud ton of people. Even if it was like 50 views. I'm like, do you know how many people that is? Like, if I put 50 people in a room and gave you the floor for 3 minutes, you would be like, what? So that's why I like social media, because there is such a large impact and such a large way to reach.
Yeah, the leverage aspect is massive. To recreate that in a live settings, good luck, right? You would have to pay a lot of money or be so good at your craft that they'll pay you to come speak in front of 300 people or 500, like, so.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, good stuff, man. So we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. We'll email everybody the next topic. We'll announce it in the community as well. But thanks again. Good job, Eric, on sharing some of your story, which ties into the topic today. So see you guys in a couple weeks.
See you guys.